Welcome back, Shoop Sports, everybody. I am your host, Mr. Shoop himself. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different from what we did last week. We are still going to be doing our Survivor picks, but we are going to be preceding that with power rankings. And the reason for that is when we do our NFL picks tomorrow, we have a ranking system to go off of. So we know personally what teams we have overrated and underrated, so that when we look at the spreads, we're not basing it off of just the numbers. We're predicting the spreads, and we're going to see what teams are overrated and underrated by the public. So without further ado, let's go over this last week's action. So recap for our predictions. So for the Survivor picks, we did pretty well. All of our suggested picks hit, and one of our two spoilers lost, and that was the Bills. So hopefully you didn't pick the Bills. Panthers was a close game, but if you picked them, you got away with one there. So we're going to be looking at all 32 teams. We're going to be breaking up into 4 tiers of 8. We're going to be looking at the bottom 8 teams first, and we're going to be going over each team while they're there, and then we're going to go from there. Okay, we're going to pull up our bottom 8 here, and you see, so these bottom 6 teams that we have here are from 27 to 32. They're, in my opinion, they're all pretty interchangeable. The reason I have the Falcons at 32 is because we knew that this defense was going to be horrible. They could barely keep the Eagles off the field. That was bad enough, but Matt Ryan looks washed up, and without Julio Jones there, this team, if they can't score points, who are they going to beat? It's especially in the division that they're in. It's going to be very hard-pressed to find anyone worse than that. The Giants, it almost seems kind of hopeless for them at this point, because just like the Falcons' strength was their offense, the Giants' strength was their defense, and even their defense didn't look that great. Daniel Jones is still turning the ball over, and the reason that they're this low is that I just don't see that much upside with this team. So like a team like the Jaguars at number 30, they had by far the worst showing of any team, but we need to keep in mind, and something that my friend pointed out to me, is that rookie QBs have awful track records in week 1, and we saw pretty much every rookie QB that started this week lost, and that includes Trevor Lawrence. And like I said, it was probably the Texans' one game that they were going to win all year. So the Texans are above the Jaguars for now, but they're still among the worst teams. And then the Lions, a lot of people will have them as the worst team, but yes, they went down huge to the 49ers. But one thing that I notice, and what puts them above these other teams, is the fight that they showed under Dan Campbell. They seem like a team that will put up extra garbage time points. So we want to be careful if we see big spreads on the Lions. Jets, among the 6 trash tier teams, I think the Jets are the cream of the shitty crop. The reason they're down here is because their offensive line can't block a thing, but their defense didn't look too bad, and I saw some things out of Zach Wilson that looked pretty good, and if his receivers didn't make some bad drops, he probably would have had some better numbers on the day. Rounding out the bottom 8 with 2 teams that won their first week, but won over our bottom 6 opponents, and nothing really changed with them. The Eagles we'll see how they play against a team that is not the Falcons. I just think that they took advantage of a team that was really struggling. And the Panthers also, I don't think Sam Darnold's a good quarterback, period. And they took advantage of the Jets, who can't block a thing, like I said. All right, so the next 8 we're going to go to, and right down at the bottom, we have a pair of teams that faced off this weekend. Both have major issues on defense, but playmakers on offense. But the Vikings have issues in particular, especially if their offensive line, they couldn't block a thing. And this is what happens when you pay Kirk Cousins almost $40 million a year, and you have no money to pay anyone else. You get a roster like the one you have in Minnesota. Good win for Cincinnati, and again, they played another lackluster opponent who has similar flaws to them, and they're by far the worst team in that division. The Raiders are one of my teams that I think are going to be very overrated with that big Monday night win, but that was their first game in front of fans at Allegiant Stadium. I don't think that their defense can keep up all season, and I think the Ravens have issues of their own. So we'll see what the spreads are like when we go over it tomorrow. Patriots at number 21, they could easily rise, and of course, Bill Belichick's a great coach, and that defense looked pretty good. It's all about how far can Mac Jones take this team. So this is a low ranking for them, but they definitely could be on the rise. One team that I'm moving up in my rankings is the Bears. Now, of course, they got blown out by the Rams, but there are still like some plays I saw out of this team that make me think that against a team that's not elite level like the Rams are, that they could hang a lot of teams in the league. And once Justin Fields is started, which I really wish he was starting right away because he's miles and miles above Andy Dalton. Once he gets started, then this team will be a threat to most teams in the league. But for now, fade Andy Dalton all the way. And then rounding out the last three in the bottom half, we have the final two NFC East teams. One of them being the Cowboys, who surprised many people by keeping up the Bucks, but if you've been following the Cowboys, you knew that was never the problem. It has been this decrepit defense, and they're still young. They're still going to get slaughtered on defense this year. Washington, I had them in my top half, but with the injury to Fitzpatrick, we saw Taylor Heineke have a great performance in the playoff game last year. Can he keep it up? We haven't seen him play a full season, so I would watch before I put them in that top tier yet. Let's see how they play on Thursday. So the Colts, their last team, that's 17, and it's concerning that they can't block because that was supposed to be one of their defining features, that they were a good blocking unit, and Carson Wentz couldn't stay protected against a Seattle defensive front that is not known for their pass rush. So that was concerning a little bit, but we'll see how Wentz develops throughout the season. Top 16, here we go. So the bottom half of the top 16, we're going to start with the Titans, and their defense looked awful as expected, but I wouldn't put too much stock in this loss because I'm high on the Cardinals, and you'll see that why very soon. But if their defense keeps playing like this, they're not going to make it past the first playoff game. Dolphins, if Tua didn't make that horrible interception, or if Damon Harris didn't have that fumble at the end of the game, then we'd be talking about Tua's horrible interception, because that play would have been on it. It really would have costed the game. He got bailed out there, but that defense is still legit, and Brian Flores is really proving himself to be one of the best head coaches in the league. The Ravens, I was kind of disappointed with their performance, especially in the secondary. It looks like the loss of Marcus Peters is really hurting them, and I didn't really think the running back losses would hurt them so much, but Tyson Williams, their new number one, he had some good runs, but he struggled in pass protection, as did parts of the offensive line. That'll be a concern going forward. Maybe one of these veteran running backs can step up and offer better protection for Lamar. Number 13, the Packers, they had, besides the Jaguars, they had the worst loss of week one. I don't even know what to make of it. Is Rodgers tanking? Is he throwing the season? Are the Saints that good? I will just have to. There's no way they can be that bad. That's how I'm going to say it. But concern is definitely there. The Broncos, I already told you, I was confident enough to use them as a survivor pick on the Giants, not just because the Giants are bad, but the Broncos, their whole team is legit. Their only concern is really his quarterback. And Teddy was not too bad. He's displayed some accuracy. If he just does the bare minimum, the Broncos could be up for a wild card spot this year. The Saints obviously had that win over the Packers. Very impressive. Saints just manhandled the Packers on defense. Is Jameis Winston going to be this careful with the ball every week? We'll wait and see. But I like what I saw of this performance. Number 10, the 49ers. I think that the Jason Verrett injury is going under the radar right now. He was their best corner, and of course he's been maligned with injuries his entire career, but that's going to hurt their secondary. They lost Richard Sherman this offseason. They have no depth, and in a division, we've got Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, and DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Robert Woods, all those guys. How are they going to cover them? But they're still a great team, but They're definitely the worst team in that division. And last, the Steelers. I'm not having them in the top half of the top 8 because their offensive line is still a concern, but that defense is legit, and you have to credit a great win at Buffalo. One of the hardest places to win, especially with Buffalo's roster now. Have to give them credit for that. So, number 9 they are. And here we go. So, our top 8. The Los Angeles Chargers had another great win. Also had a great win against the Washington football team. Their offense is going to be legit, especially if the new offensive line improvements they made. And on that final drive where they killed the game, Justin Herbert was making third down conversion after third down conversion. It was quite impressive. He was acting like a veteran out there. And if Mike Williams stays healthy, then they got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. They got weapons. The defense is good. I don't want to say they can challenge the Chiefs. I don't think they're there yet, but they could definitely be the top wildcard team in the AFC. The Bills, I'm lowering them a little bit from the top 5. Just it's really Josh Allen. I just didn't really see Josh Allen we saw last year. I saw Josh Allen we saw 2 years ago, the inconsistent version. Maybe it was just jitters in his first game. He was playing a tough defense, but they went 13-3 last year. There's expectations there. You got to be able to live up to those. Number 6, the Seahawks. The concern with the Seahawks is always their offensive line and their defense, and I think this is Russell Wilson's best offensive line he's ever had, and his defense is absolutely legit as well. So the Seahawks, the sky's the limit for them. But again, they play in a tough division. We'll see where it goes. Now, top 5. The Cleveland Browns had the most impressive loss of the week, nearly beating the Chiefs on the road, and to a guy who's never lost in September in Patrick Mahomes. Browns got to hang their heads high for that one. And they got the Texans this week, so should be big things coming. It should be a nice rebound week for the Browns. And here's where my rankings may surprise you. I have the Cardinals as the 4th best team in the NFL. Like I said last week, I placed a bet on the Cardinals to win over 8 games this year because of the improvements made to the offensive line and defensive line. And that pass rush showed because the addition of J.J. Watt helped Chandler Jones get 5 sacks this week. That's scary. And with that offense and what Kyler's doing, Kyler could win MVP this year. I really think the Cardinals are flying on their radar, and we need to take advantage of that on the lines. But I still think the 3 teams up here are the elite teams and the bona fide Super Bowl contenders. Rams of Matthew Stafford are just absolutely ridiculous. Their defense was already legit. Of course, their offense was already legit. Now they have McVay with Stafford. The Rams looked like they were toying with the Bears at times in this game. And it really could have been much more of a blowout than it actually was. The Chiefs at 2, great comeback win. Mahomes doing what he does. But the Bucs are going to be number 1 until anyone shows signs of stopping them. Yes, the Cowboys put up points against them, but that's what the Cowboys do. And the Bucs lost a nickel corner, Sean Murphy bunting, in the first quarter. But the Bucs are the most talented team maybe we've seen in the last 10 years. So they're going to stay number 1 for a while unless someone really unseats them. So that's it for the power rankings. So before we go, we're going to do a quick Survivor picks where you have 3 good ones this week. The first one is going to be the Browns at home against the Texans. They're 12-point favorites, and the Texans, that's the one game they're going to win all year. They have one of the worst rosters in the NFL. Browns are at home. They're going to be looking to rebound with that loss. You could say that they might not be over the emotional loss that happens when you play a team like that close and lose like that, but it's the Texans, and the Browns are well coached. I think it's an easy win. Another pick that I would go with is Denver again on the road against the Jaguars. Denver's defense is stifling, and their pass rush is legit. They're going to get after Trevor Lawrence and make mistakes again. And once again, they're using it on the road, but it's just another mismatch. I really think that if Denver's not going up against a team with a good quarterback, they're going to win every week. And lastly, I'd go with the Packers at home against the Lions. Another team that's going to be looking to prove themselves on a rebound loss, on a really bad loss. If Aaron Rodgers has any bone in him, he's going to want to just destroy the Lions, and the Lions have no defense to keep up with them. Other okay picks, I would go with the Steelers at home against the Raiders. But I would probably save the Steelers for another spot. But I will say that the Raiders going on the road on a West Coast game, on an East Coast game, which John Gruden historically has a bad record in, I think the Steelers should win. But we'll talk about that more in the picks. And then the Bucks are a 13-point favorite over Falcons, but there's so many good options this week. Let's save the Bucks if you haven't used them yet. It's not like last week where we were kind of tough on options. The Bucks we can easily save because they're going to win most games this year. And if I had to pick one trap this week, I don't really see a whole lot of traps per se as long as you play it smart. But the Patriots are almost a 6-point favorite over the Jets on the road. No matter how much better the Patriots look on paper versus the Jets and well coached, don't take divisional matchups and road opponents, and this is both. This is stay away. Don't think you can get away with using the Patriots here. Wait till the Patriots are at home against the Jets, whenever that is, or just simply go with one of the many better options this week. Okay, so that wraps it up. Expect NFL picks video tomorrow, and additionally, look out for our DFS picks. If you followed our DFS picks last week, you'll see we had a very good week. So tune into that. And for now, this is Shoop Sports signing out.